Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this virtual COPE Galway Lunch and Learn information session. We're really pleased to welcome representatives of many different Galway-based organisations on the call today. And on behalf of all the team at COPE Galway, Bhuailm Fáilte Curród Gonair. Over the next 45 minutes, we'll endeavour to give you a flavour of the wide range of work that we do on behalf of the Galway community, and to highlight issues and developments that need to be addressed in supporting people in the pursuit of their rights and a better quality of life. We'll also share stories of people whose lives have been touched by their involvement with COPE Galway, and it really is these personal stories that are at the heart of our work. So in terms of how we're going to run the session, first our CEO, Michael Smith, will introduce COPE Galway, touching briefly on our history and values, our strategy, governance and funding. We'll run a short video that we used to launch our 2020 annual report earlier this month, and then the heads of each of our homeless, domestic abuse and senior support services will provide an overview of their areas of work. For the last 7 or 8 minutes of the call, we'll be running a breakout session with 2 topic options, both in Q&A format. The first is about employee engagement, volunteering and corporate partnerships, and the second is about our 3 service areas. And really the aim of these breakout sessions is to provide you with an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, which I hope will facilitate you in getting as much out of this time as possible. So we'll outline these options again when introducing the breakout rooms, and you can make your selection at that point which room you want to join. So we're going to run those sessions just after 1:15 and finish by 1:30 with some closing remarks from our CEO. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. You've seen that we've muted everyone and turned off video, and we'd appreciate if you could keep your microphone on mute and video off until we get to the breakout sessions. If the call drops for you, click on the meeting link again and you'll be readmitted. And if you're having any difficulty hearing the speakers, please just let us know using the chat box. You'll have seen that we are recording the session and we'll send you the link after the call, and you might like to share that with colleagues to view at another time. So thanks again for joining us. I'd like to introduce you now to Michael Smith, CEO of COPE Galway.
Thanks, Sharon, and thank you all for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy day to hear about what we do in COPE Galway. At COPE Galway, we provide services in homelessness, domestic abuse, and senior support across 13 different locations in Galway City. We employ about 160 people in a wide variety of roles, including social care, childcare, community support, and food preparation. COPE Galway has been serving the Galway community for over 50 years, since the Galway Social Service Council was established in the 1970s. In 2000, we rebranded as COPE. And then in 2007, we became COPE Galway. The human figure in our logo represents a person at the center of our work. That person is surrounded by the caring hearts of our community. The blue arc over the top of our logo is a visual representation symbolizing protection and shelter. Our logo symbolizes how our community is a better place when we are there for each other, taking the time to care and mind each other in our times of need. COPE Galway's new strategic plan, launched in 2020, reaffirms our commitment to who we are, our values, and our approach, and will see us to continue to deliver and respond to the growing and challenging needs, but to also look at how we address the issues at the earliest possible opportunity through prevention, education, and early engagement. We focus on achieving the best possible impact for our work through high quality services and advocating for systemic change. The pandemic has demonstrated the extent to which society relies on the services of the community and voluntary sector, and the integral role that COPE Galway and many others play in supporting our communities. Our people and our many volunteers, including our board of directors who support our work, are our greatest resource. They embody our core principles, which are informed by our organizational ethos and values: quality and professionalism, empowering people, an emphasis on strengths and abilities over weaknesses and needs, deep listening and understanding, and respecting and valuing each individual. If I may take some time just to reflect on the past year and a half that we've been through, our diverse and talented teams showed commitment above and beyond, taking on roles not normally part of their work, adapting to new ways of working and continuing to come to work every day throughout the various degrees of lockdown. even while struggling with their own anxieties and fears. Their commitment to their work is what made it possible for us to support and continue to support and deliver our essential services to keep people safe. We rely on the support of over 240 regular volunteers. And in addition to that, there are a team of about 100 occasional and events-based volunteers also. And then there are, of course, the Helping Hands corporate volunteer projects, where we work with organisations such as your own to make a difference. COPE Galway's annual budget requirement in 2020 was approximately €7.5 million. At the broadest level, COPE Galway provides essential social services to the people of Galway on behalf of the state. So to that end, 75% of our funding comes from our three state funders, the HSE, TUSLA, and the local authorities. And the remaining 25% comes from a combination of fundraising and donations, grants, earned income, and service charges. We rely on the goodwill and generosity of the people of Galway. And in 2020, the Galway community helped us to raise in excess of €1.4 million towards the continued delivery of our essential services. We simply couldn't continue to do our work without the support of our community, and I thank you all in that regard. In terms of our costs, 86% of our funds are spent on our service provision, with homeless services accounting for 57%, domestic abuse services 19%, and our senior support services around 10%. The remaining 14% of the cost is ultimately for administration, the overheads of running the organisation, HR, finance, management, fundraising and governance. COPE Galway and their compliance landscape is very wide. We have always taken our governance and compliance responsibilities very seriously, and we're committed to achieving the best possible standards in good governance. In this regard, we adhere to all legislative requirements, and we regularly engage in external consultants and auditors to audit us against best practice. We were recognised at a national level for our best practice governance standards by being shortlisted for the Good Governance Awards in 2020. So you, as supporters and advocates for our work and the work that we do, can be fully assured that COPE Galway is an organisation of integrity and one which focuses on achieving best practice governance standards in order to best meet the needs of those we work with. Despite the challenges facing our staff and our clients throughout the crisis, COPE Galway's story of 2020 is one of responsiveness, adaptability, and resilience. But while our efforts to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 allowed us to continue to support children, young people, women and men across our three services, we continue to face challenges. We need to continue to work to meet the basic human rights and needs that for each one of us deserves: timely access to adequate and appropriate housing, safety for women and children in a society that just does not tolerate domestic abuse, and access to services that support quality, independent living in older age. We're often asked by our corporate supporters, individuals, families, and community groups, how can I help to support the work of COPE Galway? And the answer is that there's so much that can be done, from volunteering, time or skills, to raising funds, donating goods to our charity shops, or becoming a regular donor, to taking the time to engage with us more closely, and to advocating about our work in the community. We welcome and greatly value all support at all levels, and we will have the chance to talk more about this during our engagement breakout sessions shortly. And now, we're going to take a look at a video that we produced to mark the launch of our annual report, a useful overview of our services and impacts before each of our service heads takes you through their area of work.
What a terrific video. My name is Carol and I head up COPE Galway's Domestic Abuse Service. Domestic abuse is a grim topic, not one we're really ever keen to talk about, so I really appreciate you giving us 5 or 6 minutes of your time today. When you think of domestic abuse and you think of that term, the images that come to your mind are probably of women that are bruised and beaten, perhaps at the hands of a drunken brute. You may see images of poverty, and indeed some and all of those images are true to the case a lot of the time, but not always. 1 in 5 women in Ireland can expect to be on the receiving end of intimate partner abuse at some time in her life. 1 in 5 is quite a huge number. So I'd invite you now to close your eyes for a couple of seconds and conjure up the faces of 5 women that you love. It might be your daughter, your sister, your mother. It might be the woman sitting beside you now. It might be a colleague or a friend. If any of those is a victim of domestic abuse, how would you feel? What picture would you see now? The thing about domestic abuse is that it doesn't really care where you come from. We meet all kinds of women in our service. Each year we support about 600 women, and they come from all walks of life. Domestic abuse doesn't care about your career or your creed. It doesn't care about what money you earn or where you live. It touches all kinds of women in all kinds of ways. And so the women that we meet young women, maybe with very little education. We meet professional women with high-powered careers, older women with long, hard lives behind them. We meet pregnant women, and we meet new mothers. We also meet women with disabilities and health issues, all kinds of women. And while each of these women is unique and each story is unique, there are certain common traits that they all have. Abuse and control at the hands of a man that they love. And for a lot of these women, they've been made to feel so very, very small. And they begin to think that the problem is them because they've been told the problem is them. And a woman will start torturing herself with ideas of, if I was a better woman, if I was thinner or prettier, if I was a better housekeeper, if I didn't nag him, kept better control of the kids, if I understood his pain, if I could only fix him, if. But it doesn't matter what she does. It doesn't matter how thin she becomes or how well she can cook or control the children, because he just moves the goalposts. Eventually, she begins to see the futility of it all. She realizes that nothing's going to change, that she's not the problem. And that's actually when we see the other common trait that all our women have: strength, resilience, huge levels of resources. And that is the interesting thing about a woman who's a victim of domestic abuse. To live with an abusive partner takes strength that is almost superhuman. To survive every day, the terror of living with somebody who's making a choice each day to make your life hell takes some strength. And eventually, a woman in that situation will take that strength and she'll use it to free herself. She'll regain her voice, she'll reclaim her life, and she'll move on. And each day, the staff and I that work in our domestic abuse service get to witness that, and it's a great privilege to do it. Of all of the women in the world who experience domestic abuse, only about 10% will ever tell another soul. Can you imagine that 90% of women who are abused will never tell anybody? Of those who do disclose what's been happening in their lives, only about 10% again need refuge, which is what we provide in Moella House. Refuge provides safe harbour to a woman who can't be safe anywhere else. It's a really important part of what we do. It means the woman has an opportunity to safely press pause on her life for a short time and work out what she wants to do in a very supportive and caring environment. It's a place where the woman can be sure that her choices and her wishes come first, and that's something she's not used to having. The 90% of women who work with us and don't use refuge, we call outreach. And we meet those women in places all over the city and county. Many women will find it very, very difficult to leave an abusive relationship, and indeed will try as many as 6 or 7 times before they're eventually able to free themselves. What we do during that period is really important. If a woman, for whatever reason, finds that she's unable to leave the abuser, our role becomes about helping her stay safe during that period of time. This is really key to what we do. And another key part of our work is what we're doing right now, raising awareness. If you know, like we do, that domestic abuse is a blight on our families and our communities, if you, like us, share the horror of what it means for women and children to live with this, then maybe you, like us, will help us to solve this problem by being a community that says, no, we expect better for our women and we expect better for our children. Another part of our work is training other professionals and agencies in domestic abuse. And this is really, really important. Women and children who use our service tell us how often they're asked, well, why don't you just leave and why are you putting up with that? But the truth of it is that when we say that as observers, we're not even beginning to understand what her life is like. We're not in her shoes. We don't understand the level of control that's being exerted over her. We don't understand the voices in her head that she's been listening to from him for a long, long time, because that abuser has selected her, has managed and manipulated that environment to a point where she believes that no one is going to believe her, that it's all in her head. He would fill her head with these negative messages. Unfortunately, when your self-esteem takes that kind of fashion, eventually you begin to believe it yourself. So if you've got all that negative in your head, and then you imagine handing up your keys, your shoes, your wallet, walking out the door and starting life again, then you can begin to understand the scale of the challenge that a woman in an abusive relationship faces. It's not that easy to leave. Sure, it isn't. Sometimes we're asked, what are the red flags? What should we be looking out for? That's a really interesting question, because when we ask that question, we're almost saying to the woman, you should have seen this coming, you should have known. That's not how it works. She can't know. He has made it so that she won't know. And so we have produced this relationship checklist where we ask women and invite women to just take a moment to stop and take an audit, how she really feels, what level of control and freedom is she enjoying? Is she walking on eggshells all the time? And this is something really important in terms of helping a woman free herself from an abusive partner. So what does this mean for you then today? Can you take anything away from this? There's a couple of things I'd ask you to do. Number one, I would say, open your mind to the reality that you may know somebody who's in an abusive relationship. That's not something we want to think about, but it is there. And unless we can believe that it's there, we'll never be on the lookout for it. Secondly, open channels of communication. This is really, really important. If there's a woman in your life that you haven't heard from in a while, send her a message. Don't ask her for anything, don't expect anything from her, but just keep that channel of communication open. There may be a time that she needs to reach out to you, so be there for her when she needs that. Thirdly, if somebody wants to tell you what's going on in their home and in their most intimate relationship, be open and willing to listen, and listen very carefully and with a lot of compassion. Remind her she did nothing to deserve this. Remind her that it doesn't matter, that this is not her fault. Reassure her that you understand her. Ask her what she wants, but please don't tell her what to do. She gets enough of that already. When she's ready, give her our phone number and tell her she can phone us anytime. She doesn't need to give us her name if she doesn't want to. Some women call us and they want to cry, and maybe we're the first and only people she'll ever tell. So take a note of this number, put it in your phone. If you meet a woman that you think would benefit from this number, let her have it, but just be there for her. Lastly, have a look at your workplace. How are you equipped for domestic abuse? If a colleague came to you today, if a staff member came to you as her manager and said, there's something really awful going on in my life, how willing and able are you to help her? Will you give her time off when she needs to go to court, when she needs to talk to a social worker, when she's in and out to talk to a solicitor? Will you help her stay safe? What are you going to do if a partner works with you as well? Think about these things. And if it's something you want to learn more about, then please get in touch with us and we'll gladly help you do it. COPE Galway fundamentally believe in a safe and just society. And we know that you do too, because you support our work. And so I'd like to thank you for that. That's made our work possible. I'm going to pass you on now to my colleague, Sinead, who heads our home services. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for a very illuminating presentation. It was a privilege to join the COPE Galway Homeless Services team in May of this year. I'm working alongside a committed and dedicated team with and for individuals and families who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Our team works tirelessly with people in Galway City and County in these very difficult circumstances to find individualised, creative solutions to homelessness. COPE Galway is a learning organisation, and we constantly strive to innovate in line with evidence-based best practice. The methods we embrace includes strengths-based approaches, harm reduction, trauma-informed care, and rights-based service provision. We offer a range of residential and non-residential supports across emergency and supported temporary accommodation, independent living and transitional accommodation, prevention, resettlement and tenancy support services. 2020 was an exceptionally busy and challenging year for homeless services. Adapting our services to meet the needs of the men, women and children we work with through the difficulties of the pandemic, we were proud to support 1,157 people. As well as adults, this included 350 children supported by our families and family hub teams. Our family support services works with and supports families who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. We provide and place families in emergency accommodation. We engage in homeless prevention interventions. We provide resettlement and tenancy support, information and referral to mainstream services, and assistance in securing long-term housing. Our key workers regularly visit our families in bed and breakfast accommodation, recognising the challenges they face, including cramped living conditions and limited access to cooking and laundry facilities. What is intended to be a short-term solution in reality is usually not this. Our recent donation from the Late Late Toy Show has enabled us to hire a new child, youth and family outreach worker to work directly with the children in our emergency accommodation, including B&Bs. We are extremely grateful for this support. However, this new post is funded for just 1 year. We would very much welcome ongoing support to ensure the continuation of this vital support for homeless parents and their children, who are our most vulnerable clients, to work towards giving them every chance possible to develop to their full potential. Our day centre service is targeted at single people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, especially those who are rough sleeping. Here we provide support, a listening ear, information and referral to accommodation and mainstream services, and assistance in securing long-term accommodation, as well as food and access to washing and laundry facilities. It is also from this service that our weekly street outreach takes place. Our 24/7 residential services are Fairgreen Hostel with 26 spaces for men, Osterley Lodge with 12 spaces for women, Corrib Haven Family Hub, which accommodates up to 10 families, and our cold weather and COVID-19 response with additional beds for winter months and throughout the pandemic. These services are focused on responding to the accommodation and support needs of single people and families who are in crisis, supporting them to move out of homelessness and secure suitable longer-term accommodation. The upkeep of our residential facilities is a costly and challenging endeavour for an under-resourced area of our service provision. We greatly appreciate the support of the community to make the very most of our environments. And here in these photos, we see volunteers from Nordson Medical very generously giving their time, overhauling our Osterley Lodge garden to make the space a beautiful one for the women who live there. Our resettlement and tenancy support services are focused on supporting people through their transition to independent living when moving out of homelessness, and for the period of time required to help establish and sustain their tenancy in the community. We also run transitional and community-based accommodation for single people as a step towards independence and reintegration into the community. We are proud that despite the challenges the pandemic brought, during 2020, a total of 91 households, 48 families and 43 single people moved on to permanent long-term housing from COPE Galway's homeless services, 39 into social housing and 52 into private rented. As the country locked down, we are proud that we continued to provide homeless services, and in fact, with the support of Galway City and County Councils, the HSE and our partners, extended our service provision at a time when vulnerable health compromised people needed us most. Homeless services were not easy places to live in and work in what was an uncertain and difficult time. Each one of the 1,157 people we worked with in 2020 represents a unique individual with their own story, their own difficulties and traumas, families and friends, hopes, dreams, strengths and skills. Stories like those so generously shared in our recently published annual report by Trish and by Gavin. In the annual report, Trish speaks of her experience as a mother struggling with homelessness and addiction, and of the changes she made to improve her life and obtain secure housing with the support of COPE Galway. Gavin highlights the difficulties in maintaining a home and a job when challenged by poor mental health, and how, with support and educational opportunities, positive change is possible. Both Trish and Gavin remind us of the strengths, bravery and resilience each and every one of the people we work with in COPE Galway has in the face of exceptionally difficult life circumstances, whether they have moved on from our services, are being supported to maintain tenancies by our resettlement team, or are currently living with us and working together with our SDA teams towards move on. Many thanks for supporting us today through learning about our services. We greatly appreciate the combined contributions to our homeless services of our staff, our volunteers, you, our supporters, and above all, the men, women and children who live in and avail of our services. And these are just some of the ways that you can help to support COPE Galway's homeless services. I'll now hand you over to my colleague, Jackie Linsky, who's the Head of Senior Support Services.
Okay, hi everybody. I know that's a lot of information to take in, so I hope that you'll be able to bear with us just for one more presentation, and then you will have an opportunity to engage with us. So I'm Jackie and I work in our Senior Support Service, which is focused on supporting healthy, independent ageing at home. We work in support of the United Nations Decade of Healthy Ageing, which runs from 2021 to 2030, and which aims to improve the lives of older people, their families, and the communities in which they live. We do this in three main ways. We have a meal service, we have a range of community supports, and we promote positive ageing. And in 2020, we supported 856 people across this range of services. Our meal service produces and delivers tasty and nutritious food, which has been designed specifically for the dietary needs of older adults and others living with chronic illness. One of our Meals for Health social enterprise has been growing and developing over the last 3 years. And in 2020, we were extremely proud of our entire team when we won the National Charity Impact Social Enterprise of the Year award. Meals can be ordered online or by phone and delivered to anywhere in Ireland. And throughout the pandemic, our meal service was responsive to any older person who needed a meal due to the shopping and the restaurant restrictions during the various lockdowns. Mike Kavanagh is a 90-year-old man living in Renmore. In 2017, Mike suffered a major stroke. And by following the medical advice and eating texture-modified meals from Meals for Health, he is now back swimming in Blackrock every day and loving life. Our community support programme links in with older people living in their own homes in Galway. We offer one-to-one supports, group activities, lunch clubs, and a range of befriending programmes. Loneliness and isolation has been a growing issue for older people, but the COVID-19 pandemic brought this to a new level, affecting so many older persons. And studies suggest that approximately 30% of older people feel lonely. COPE Galway were part of the local response to reach out to people and developed a range of responses, including a helpline, practical supports, and a suite of befriending options, which you can see here on the slide. I'm delighted that activities can now happen again. So coffee mornings, walking groups, chair yoga, and lots more are taking place weekly in Moorview, and of course in lots of other parts of the city and county also. And we're very glad to be able to meet with older people in their homes again. COPE Galway value and appreciate the positivity of older age. And we see every day how older people contribute to their families, their neighbourhoods, and their communities. We also see so many people who are active, healthy, and positive in older age. This is Gay Christ from Roscahill, who at the age of 81 enjoys archery, she plays the harp, she canoes in Lough Corrib, and she teaches 10 yoga classes a week for her local community. You'll all be well aware of the very negative narrative of older age, which emerged during the pandemic. Dr. Ryan from the World Health Organization, in his recent launch of COPE Galway's annual report, spoke passionately about older people. And he said, older persons need to be recognized for what they're doing to support society. And we all need to become advocates for that. And so to counteract this negativity and ageism in general, COPE Galway are promoting Positive Ageing Week, which just happens to be this week. There are a range of activities happening across the city and county to showcase positive ageing and the enormous contribution which older people make in their families, their neighbourhoods, and their communities. The flagship event is a Local Heroes exhibition, which is currently showing in the Eyre Square Shopping Centre, and it profiles 27 people across Galway who are active and engaged, which, as we all know, represents the majority of people in older age. Both Mike and Gay that I mentioned earlier are featured in this exhibition. This is a picture of the Headford Yarn Bombers. Some of you may have heard of them. They've been very active and creative in the last few years, and they're led by Olivia Dooley and Patricia O'Callaghan, both of whom are also featured in the Local Heroes exhibition. The Mini Me project is where the Yarn Bombers have created replicas of well-known people from around Headford, and they can be seen around the town. And I think this is a fabulous way to lift the spirits of a whole community and bring people together in a fun way. Positive Ageing Week is also a wonderful opportunity for children to thank their grandparents or a significant other older person in their lives. And free cards are available from our charity shop, our office, libraries, and some schools, where children can colour them in and send a message to a significant person saying, as part of Positive Ageing Week, I want to let you know how much you mean to me. So it's not too late to think about how you might be able to recognise the older people in your lives and communities and thank them for the amazing contributions that they make. So I leave you with a simple thought which encompasses a positive and an uplifting attitude and approach to ageing. Simply live your life and forget your age. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks to all who engaged in our breakout rooms too. I hope you found the last 45 minutes useful, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. From our perspective, it's great to have an opportunity to raise awareness about COPE Galway's homeless, domestic abuse and senior support services, and to share the impact of our work with you, the Galway business community. We would very much welcome your ongoing involvement with us, and Leonie's contact details are on the screen in this regard. Finally, there are so many ways in which you can get involved. From following us on social media, to signing up to our mailing list, participating in a Helping Hands volunteering project, or talking with us about a corporate partnership tailored to your business needs. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, and slán go fóill.